I am a Holocaust survivor who just turned 92. I have a tattoo on my arm from Auschwitz and survived through 7 concentration camps including Blexamer, Gross-Rosen, and Buchenwald for over 3 years and have lived life to the fullest ever since. Ask me anything. I am a pre-service history and English teacher. What is something you'd want all teachers to talk about when teaching their students about the Holocaust? They need to tell story as it is. You cannot shy away from history and its brutality. We usually learn about history through books, but this is an event that happened in my lifetime. I witnessed it, and I am still alive today to discuss it. Soon, there will not be any survivors left. I am 92. Once all the survivors are gone, the skeptics will probably come into the picture, unfortunately. And that is why we need to educate everyone about what really happened. It didn't happen 500 years ago. It happened in my lifetime. What do you enjoy now that most of us take for granted? Life is beautiful. I love seeing my family. Hey Mr. Flesher. What did your moment of liberation feel like? The day you got to leave the camps and start a normal life again. Did you ever feel like that day would come? My great-grandfather was one of the soldiers who liberated the camps after the war was lost, and I've always been curious what emotions the prisoners felt. Edit, I meant to write when the war was won, not lost. I had a brain fart and I'm sorry. I didn't know it. I didn't understand. I was on another death march at the time from Altenburg to Waldenburg. I managed to slip away and hide in a chicken coop along the way, and at that time the American convoy was advancing. I saw an American tank and an American soldier and thought he was going to kill me because I didn't know the uniform. I still left the coop and went up to them, because at that time I could barely stand up and weighed about 70 pounds. I was liberated on April 11th. I didn't know that day would come. I was very sick when I was liberated and could barely eat, talk, or walk. What was the ride to the camp like? Were you aware of what awaited you, and if not, when did you realize? I was first sent to Drancy, a transit camp. I was then transported in a cattle car packed with people with no food or water and one bucket in the middle to use as a toilet. I was 16-18 at the time. The smell was unfathomable. After 6 days in the train came to stop. The guards started to count men. They selected 300 men. I was number 298. We were taken off the train. The train then continued on its way to Auschwitz and everyone was killed. I will never forget the number 298. Thank you for doing this. In your opinion, how accurate was the movie Schindler's List? I thought it was as close as you can come. It was very well done. What was the transition back to civilian life like, after spending 3 years in concentration camps? I wanted to travel and see the world. I went forwards, not backwards. It was a very difficult transition back into real life. I had 3/4 of my stomach taken out from an infection I got while at the camps. This was painful. What kinds of foods were snuck in for special secret meals? If ever? I used to go out at night risking my life to steal some raw potatoes from the kitchen at Pijskritschaim and at Blekhammer. I took chances. At Blekhammer some inmates caught a dog, a German Shepherd, and cooked it. It was a feast. Tasted like rabbit. That was the only time I've eaten dog, and it was the best meal I had in a long time. These days I prefer steak. What standout experience do you remember whilst you were in the camp? I had dysentery in Gross-Rosen and I couldn't go to the bathroom for 3 days. This was when I almost gave up. Hello Mr. Flesher, firstly thank you so much for doing this. Ask me anything, smiley face. Just a question regarding post-liberation from the camps. How did you feel returning home afterwards? What was the general attitude surrounding Jewish survivors? Going back to normal life was difficult. People didn't want to talk about the war and didn't see anything special about surviving the camps. People didn't want to discuss it. What was the first thing you did once you were liberated? I asked the American soldier if he knew my brother. My brother had gone to US a few years before and enlisted in the army. Were you consumed by hate towards those who did it to you? Have you ever managed to forgive them? I cannot forgive. But I was never consumed by hate. Hate doesn't improve anything. Thank you for this Ask Me Anything. My grandparents are both survivors. Grandfather was from Warsaw and liberated at Auschwitz. Grandmother was luckily hid by a German family in a sub-basement along with her parents and sister. She suffered many gunshot wounds while running. My grandfather sadly passed away 12 years ago, but I was always very proud of what he made of himself, knowing where he came from. That said, here is my question for you, from my 86-year-old grandmother: is he single? I got divorced after 49.5 years of marriage. We still talk to each other once in a while. I now have a girlfriend, and I'm very happy. My ex-wife got remarried shortly after the divorce to a family friend. I never stayed single for too long. My ex-wife was also hidden during the Holocaust with a Christian family. You mentioned you were 70 pounds when you were liberated. I'm a dietitian and have an interest in those initial weeks when you began to eat more. Was there any process for refeeding people that you are aware of? What did your diet consist of after you were liberated? How long until you reached a normal, functioning weight? Thanks so much. Some people ate too much and got very sick from that. I ate slowly and slowly recovered. It took maybe 4 to 5 months to get back to a normal-ish weight. Did average people anywhere realize at any point exactly what Hitler was doing when he had Jews and other outlying members of society taken from the populace? Was there a clear idea to people? Most people had no idea. Anyone who knew what was going on was already at the gas chamber or in the camps. Do you ever feel pressured to act in a certain way or live up to certain expectations, given your experiences? When I think of other survivors like Elie Wiesel, it seems that there is great reverence towards him and that people might expect survivors to be wise and always act kindly. Especially volunteering at the museum you do or giving speeches, I wonder if you ever feel as though you are living in a fishbowl and must act in a certain way. I love sharing my story, but don't even know what Reddit is. My grandson has always wanted me to share my story to as many people as possible, so he suggested this. Hello Mr. Flesher, first of all thank you for doing this Ask Me Anything. Now my question, if twofold, I hope that's alright. How did you keep going, when it was hard? Not it wasn't hard all the time, but as a young man reading about it, I always find myself in wonder of how people got through it. Secondly, why did you keep the tattoo? I have met a couple of other Holocaust survivors with the tattoos themselves and heard their reasons, so I'm very curious to hear yours. Thank you again for doing this Ask Me Anything. I lived for tomorrow. I was always positive. They told us if Germany won the war you'd work until you die, and if they lost the war they'd kill everyone. We are born to die, but I always kept my mind positive. I'm lucky I made it out, but I lost many family members and friends during this time. It's important to remember the past. If I removed the tattoo, it's removing a part of history. The Germans wanted to remove tattoos from survivors afterwards, and I'm sure many people did. But it's a testament to the past. It shows I survived. And I'm here, and loving life. Hi Mr. Flesher, my grandparents were killed in the Holocaust. Luckily they sent my dad to Palestine, later Israel. My question: were all the guards terrible, or did any of the guards show any humanity or compassion? The soldiers were doing their job, and I cannot recall any compassion from any soldier. Good morning, Mr. Flesher, and thank you to you, and your grandchild, for doing this. I'm sure it must be painful to revisit. My question is regarding the period leading up to the true horrors of your capture and detainment. Such a bland word for such horrific conditions. I realize you were very young at the time, but does anything stand out in your mind as a warning that something truly awful was happening? What indications did people have, or should they have had both Jew and Gentile, that this was more than just setting up ghettos and segregating populations? I was too young to understand what was happening. Have you ever considered writing a book? It seems ludicrous, but there are still deniers out there who claim the Holocaust never happened and every documented account helps. No. Every survivor has his or her own story. I was interviewed by Spielberg and have that on tape. I think every survivor was interviewed by him to document the living survivors. Thank for doing this. Ask me anything. My grandfather was an Austrian Jew, but he managed to escape Europe. However, all of his family, except for one brother, didn't make it. He died before I was born, and as far as I know, he never found out what happened to them. He also didn't like talking about it, according to my mother. My question is, what resources, specific to Austrian Jews, would you recommend that I use to research what happened to his family? Unfortunately, I do have very limited information, except some names. Thanks again. Update: I have now learned that my grandfather's parents died in Chelmno. I know there's a research database in the Holocaust Museum in Washington. There's probably some organizations that could help you, but I'm not truly sure. Good luck. Hello Mr. Flesher, thank you so much for sharing your experiences here on Reddit today. Was there ever a point in the camps where you felt like you can't go on, and if so, what thought or hope kept you going? Have you ever returned to any of the camps years later to see how the Holocaust is represented to travelers in Europe, or is the thought of doing so utterly abhorrent to you? There was many times I almost lost hope. It was difficult to get the stamina to keep going. I just hoped I would survive and live day by day. I returned to Drancy, where I was deported from. My name is on a wall in Paris with 76,000 names of people who got deported from there. I don't think many survived. Mr. Flesher, if a guard had asked you for forgiveness, what would have been your response? Never forgive, never forget. Might be a stupid question, but I'm going for it. Did you believe in a God before? And do you believe in one now? I have always believed in God. Before and after. God didn't kill the people, the Nazis did. Hello Mr. Flesher, I am from Germany, where denying the Holocaust is a crime and can get you a prison sentence. What is your opinion on this law? You cannot deny history. They should be punished some way, but I'm not sure that imprisonment is the right way. But lots of people are ignorant, and sometimes there's very little you can do about that. Have you ever been standing in a store or walking past a person and seen their tattooed numbers on their arm? If so, did you approach them and talk or show yours? Also, belated happy birthday, Pisces. You share the day with Albert Einstein. I don't remember ever seeing someone passing by. People wear long sleeve shirts, so it's usually covered up. I have met other people with numbers at Holocaust events in the past though. As a grandchild of 3 Holocaust survivors, I was wondering if you still kept the faith? I am not judging in any way, just genuinely interested. Yes. Definitely. Damn, you look amazing for 92. Have any aging secrets? I hope to look as good as you at your age. The secret is to enjoy whatever you do in my life. Think positive. I'm also very lucky to be in the shape I am, and I still have my mind. Wow, this is really amazing to be able to talk to you and hear your story. I am so sorry for what you went through. I have been reading a lot about Auschwitz lately and it is just heartbreaking. Can't get the pictures of the kids out of my head. I am so glad you survived. Do you have a book out with your story? Thank you so much for writing on here. I worked in a nursing home where I took care of 2 women that had stories about their time during the wars too. One from Germany but was taken away from her family to work as a servant for another family, and another from Lithuania who was reunited with her son she hasn't seen since the Holocaust, right in front of us. I'll never forget. Her name was Rose and she had a tattoo on her wrist with numbers too. I am so very sorry for what you went through. I'd love to just sit here and talk to you all day. In fact, I am going to sit here and read each and every one of these comments. Also, thank you for putting a positive twist on your experience by showing all you have accomplished and given back over the years. You are a true hero. Thank you. My sister's name was Rose as well. Hello Mr. Flesher, thank you do much for doing this. Ask me anything. My question, is there anything you regret doing while you were in the concentration/labor camps? Anything you would take back if you could? You are an inspiration and living proof of the resilience of humans. I hope life has treated you well since you were liberated. I cannot take back anything, and I cannot regret anything. We were treated worse than animals. My name was 177,153. What was it like immediately following your release? I've heard stories that some prisoners were made to stay in the camps for a time as the Allies did not know where to place them, albeit under better conditions. Any of that true? How much say did you have as to where you went once released, and how long did it take you to get back into any sort of normal living situation? Thanks for the Ask Me Anything. I honestly didn't comprehend it when I was liberated. I was very sick at the time. I stayed in a house for 2 weeks and then I went back to Belgium. Somebody gave me clothes to wear and that's all I had. Hi Mr. Flesher. Thank you for doing this Ask Me Anything, and so happy that you've been able to live your life to the fullest. My question is, did you ever create a plan to attempt an escape from the camp, or did you ever witness a successful/failed escape plan? If so, what are the details? Thank you. I never planned an escape. There were electric fences and you were wearing uniforms. I never witnessed any possible escapes. I'm an American Jew and I wanted to thank you for sharing your story. Both of my grandfathers fought for the United States in the war. My question is, that as unfortunately more and more survivors and veterans are passing away, what do you feel is the most important thing that we carry on for future generations? How can we take one of the darkest parts of human history and learn something from it? To teach everyone what the Holocaust was and to make sure that history doesn't repeat itself. I didn't personally learn anything from the Holocaust. We have one life to live and you have to enjoy it. There is no room for hate in this world. Sir, can you describe your first thoughts when you realized you were finally free and had survived? I really didn't understand it. I was confused. I didn't know I was free. Mr. Fletcher, were you captured, sorry for lack of a better term, in Germany or another country? I've always wondered when Jewish people and other groups that were interned started to become aware of Hitler and the Nazis' horrific agenda, especially in Germany. Wishing you happiness your remaining days. Thank you and God bless. I was captured in France. While trying to buy grapes at a market. They asked for my papers and that was it. From what I've been told of how systematic the processes were for killing and dehumanizing victims such as yourself, those camps and the men who designed them were nothing short of pure evil. So my question is regarding the Nazis who were stationed there and tasked with executing these horrible plans. Given the number of Germans that it must have taken to staff one of these camps, let alone all of them, it is statistically improbable that every last one of them was a psychopath. My question is this: what did you make of the normal soldiers who were ordered to carry this out? Did you ever see any of them show any signs of regret or reluctance for what they did? Did you get the chance to see how they rationalized the things that took place in the camps? I never saw signs of regret. I cannot recall ever seeing or knowing any normal soldiers. Thanks for sharing your story, Mr. Flesher. I've grown up attending many Holocaust commemorations, and the refrain has often been simply to remember. What would you want the next generation to learn about the Holocaust besides remembering it? That dictatorships are not good. They fulfill the dream of one person. And unfortunately they are still in existence today. What was an average meal like in these camps? Usually at night we got a piece of bread and some watery soup. In the morning sometimes we got a cup of coffee. I used to scrape and eat the coffee grinds from barrels and in the morning to get a little sustenance. We would also break the piece of bread we got at night in two, and save the other half for the morning. That is what I remember. Mr. Flasker, I have a family member that survived Dr. Menschel's experiments in Auschwitz. She refused to discuss her experience, which is understandable. But hearing these stories, answering questions firsthand is what this world needs as a daily reminder of how close this world was to losing an entire religion and culture that has played a pivotal role in history. The fact anyone can still even question the truth of these events, shows we need to do a better as a whole, to teach and make sure this can't happen again. To anyone. My question to you is, have you ever met or interviewed or ran into a former Nazi and questioned him? Also, is there a reflex or a habit that you developed during your experiences that has stayed with you to this day? Eating your food quickly, or sleeping on the floor, etc. I thank you tremendously for taking the time to do this. Ask me anything. Much love and respect for you and your family. I have never met a former Nazi. The only habit that stayed with me is my desire to live. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content every day.